Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing an ink from a brand I actually haven't reviewed a whole lot of. I really should get around to doing more. The brand is Colorverse and the ink I'm looking at today is Blue Black. Now this comes from the Office series. Colorverse made a little series of 8 inks that are in sort of more traditional professional colours, things like regular blues and blacks and a red, some permanent inks, and this which is a non-permanent Blue Black. Firstly, this is the bottle the ink comes in. It's very cute. It's a 30ml bottle. Nice sort of flat face on that label side, and then sort of the more sort of rounded bottle for the rest of it. Smaller bottle at 30ml, but nice and definitely does the job, and sort of quite a nice little label there as well. And here is the ink on a Colorverse card. You can see a bit of sheen there, a little bit of red sheen, which is nice. Generally speaking, it's a nice, rich, dark blue leaning towards the blue black. See some of that lovely depth down around the bottom here and some nice shading. It's not a particularly shading ink because it is a high saturation and it is a nice, rich, dark colour. So we can start with it here on Tomoe River paper. This is 68-gram Tomoe River paper. As always, this is in the Bond Travel Gear notebook, which isn't made anymore, but it's standard old stock 68-gram Tomoe River. I had it in, or have it in, more to the point, 2 pens. A TWSBI Go Extra Fine and the Pelikan M805 with a medium nib. Now, normally I would put this in a broad nib, but I already had it inked up in this pen, and as the Pelikan M805 medium nib is quite a broad medium and quite wet, I thought it would give a good realization of what that would look like as well. So let's talk about the 5 points of this ink. So the first one I've got here is it's a fun company. They do really interesting things. Huge color range. They do these like series of inks where they will do like a range of colors based around a particular idea, and like this Office series. But some little fun facts. They're from South Korea, and they, as I said, they make colors that are super vibrant and rich, and this is done using plant-based pigments. Now, there's a bit more information online about all of this. If you're interested in it, you can look it up. What this also means is that the inks are pH neutral, which can also mean they are relatively safe. So just keep something to look at if you're looking for inks for pens that are a little bit more fussy. Okay, the next point is high saturation. It is a deeply saturated ink. Colorverse do this a lot. In fact, this is what it looks like on skin after hours. It is a highly saturated ink. The next point is it is a stock color. As I said, they made a range of these inks. This is not one of the permanent inks. Sometimes Blue Blacks are a permanent ink. This one is not. But they've got, as I said, in this Office series, a range of sort of stock colors. It's got a cool bottle and packaging. Colorverse take their packaging very seriously, and they do really lovely things with it. The other point I have here is that there is good water resistance. Not permanent. Not a permanent ink, but this is what happened when I got the ink wet. You can see, because it's a highly saturated ink, a lot of it sort of moves around, but we are left with complete detail of everything that was written there. So if you got this wet with water, there is a good chance, while it would move the ink, it has water resistance. It is not bulletproof, permanent, anything like that, but you would not lose your writing, which is important. Let's talk the performance now. I've got it's a good performer. It holds up well on lower end paper, which we'll look at in just a second, and it's a lovely dark color, and that carries through in both nibs. Even in wetter nibs, it performs well. It has good water resistance, but it is not permanent, as I said. Something also to take note of is that because it is a highly saturated ink, it is slightly harder to clean from pens. There is a slight tendency for, ink to sort of hang around in some of the mechanism because such a small amount of it can go so far. So really make sure you flush out your pens. And the other thing to say is that the dry time is actually pretty good. Let's just do like a little smudge test there. You can see that it moves ever so slightly. Like I gave it a good bit of a smudge there, and it's just like a faint hint of blue where I rub my finger. So those highly saturated inks can often do that. Extras on this ink, there's some sheen, as we saw, and as you can see here on the color swatch on the Tomo River, there's some nice dark red sheen there. Low shade because it is highly saturated, and there is no shimmer. Let's now look at it in terms of performance on the papers, and if we turn the page over, nothing has come through, even nothing from the swatch down here. A little bit of red maybe sort of showing through, but it has performed very nicely here on Tomo River. So let's check it out on the other papers. Starting at the bottom this time and working our way up, we have the standard note paper from the Spyrex student lecture pad. It is a duller color, very typical of this paper, but what we can see is that the line holds actually fairly well. There are a few spots, particularly from the broader medium nib there, where it is spreading, but the feathering is okay. And if we look at the reverse, yes, a lot has come through, but I think actually I think it's probably performing better than a number of the other inks. Now on the office copy paper here, this is 80-gram reflex paper. You see once again, a slightly duller color. There's definitely no shading, but like with the lower end paper again, it has held together fairly well. And if we look at the reverse, I actually think it outperforms many of these other inks as well. And now on Rhodia, the gold standard, if you will, for like everyday use. It looks great. It's got a really lovely dark blue hue to it, which I really like. Spots where it shades, it does look quite nice, and on the swab there you get some of the shading and you get a nice bit of sheen popping up, but it is, it looks good. And on the reverse, the only thing that has come through is the swab, and that was quite a heavy swab, and moving it around did seem to sort of not break the paper up, but start to move the paper a bit. But the writing, of course, has not come through either. So as I said, a good performer. And I think probably what they've gone for is they've gone for both colors that are office friendly, but also understanding that people in office situations don't always have access to Tomo River or Rhodia paper to write on. Sometimes you are writing on lower end paper, and it's nice to have ink that does perform well. So slightly higher viscosity, things like that, stop the ink from seeping quite so far into the paper. If we look at the chromatography there, you can see why the water resistance is as it is. There's that darker sort of grey blue line left at the end where I drew the line, and then you get like the navy blues into a beautiful bright vibrant blue at the top there. So this is really a very blue ink, just that high saturation and a nice sort of grey undertone giving it that blue black. And if we look at the colour comparisons I chose, now I chose two inks for particular reasons. This is the Diamine 1864 blue black. This is a grey blue black, like it's a very black end blue black. This is my personal favourite blue black. This is the tone I love for blue black inks, and it is really well captured in this ink. So it's slightly gold sheen, that kind of thing. And then I chose Parker Quink blue black because it is very, very much a blue black. It's blue black runs the gamut, whereas Colorverse blue black sits there in the middle and has both navy tones but also some of those darker, slightly grey blue black tones. So it sits in the middle of what is considered blue black, but I think it actually sits in a very nice place. So how much does this ink cost? Well, as I said, it is a 30ml bottle, and the prices here, the US price is $13.50 for this, and the UK price is £7.50. Now, for 30 mils, that is expensive in comparison to some other brands, but in terms of what Colorverse do, this is pretty much stock standard pricing for them. I think it's well worth it because the ink is very, very fine indeed. And if we're talking about that, let's talk the score. I have given this 4.5 out of 5. Now, I rarely give inks more than a 4 because there's generally more than a couple of things that put it into a slightly lower category. That might be water resistance or performance on lower end paper or price or availability. Like this is available through a number of retailers worldwide. All these things. So this gets a 4.5. The only reason it really is let down is because, well, It's not perfect on lower end paper. It's just better than others, some others, and it is a little clumsy to clean out. That, once again, that high saturation, meaning it just sort of, as I said, a little bit of ink goes a long way. It dilutes and still remains quite present. So just something to be aware of, but doesn't stain or anything like that. So I put here, excellent performer, good color, but a little clingy to clean. So I actually think this is a great ink. I have loved using it. As I said, I've got it in my Pelikan M805 at the moment. So not just one of my like standard TWSBI review pens. This is a pen I've got inked up for my own personal, like, everyday use. I think it's a great ink. It's a lovely dark blue. There's a lot of inks in this color family, vague sort of color family, that I enjoy. Not just the blue black, but these particular tones. I'm thinking the Colt Pens Diamine combination ink Michael, which I also love the name of, or Diamine Oxford Blue, or a number of really lovely deep dark blue inks. Sherlock Holmes, another great one from Detrimentus, that sit in this very dark blue category. This is nice because it does have those hints, those little hints into the blue black, which I really enjoy. So this was Colorverse Office Series Blue Black. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce, and please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.